The thing about therapy and mental health in general is that a lot of people don't walk through it because they think the door is going to close behind them.
I was trying to recall just how many people are affected by mental illness. Somebody that personally has it, then they know somebody or have a relative that has a mental health issue.
It's a disease and it's really hard to come out of, especially if you don't have the tools and you have no support and you're trying to do it by yourself like I did.
The depression was pretty much there starting in grade school. As I progressed through high school, my behaviors were pretty much, put down to normal teenage behavior. And then it was after I moved out on my own, I had my first serious depressive episode. I had been fired from my job. I had basically no money. I was living on mayonnaise and mustard sandwiches. It was almost a catatonia, but I would just sit there and I just could not do anything.
I had actually recently moved to Shoreline. I made a lot of new friends. It was definitely jarring when I ran into COVID. Like any other person, when they first told us that we were gonna be on break for 2 weeks, I was like, let's go. And then it started to get longer, and that's when I started noticing how much I disliked being at home. I realized that I really do prefer to spend my time outside of the house, doing things, like whether it be art club after school or maybe basketball. Not having that anymore and being at home all day with the family started to make me realize just like how disconnected I was, and just like kind of intensified that isolation. I don't get anyone and they don't get me.
I was getting close to be 21 years old and I started going to bars, just on the weekends, and that's how it started for me. I wasn't showing up to work, I was hangover all the time. I knew there was something was wrong, and I just didn't care. The alcohol took that away from me. And I knew that too, I just didn't know how to manage it or cope with it, at the time. Because I didn't know what to do.
Starting to see my grades slip was probably the first point when I started to go downwards. I started talking less with the family and spending just more time on like the computer and in my room, I was still getting really depressed. And that's when I started to spiral downwards a lot.
And addiction kind of gradually gets worse and worse and worse. I had a really bad childhood. My dad was an alcoholic, and so a very abusive guy. I think that what led me to my addiction when I became an adult. I started to kind of like involve with the wrong crowd, and before I know it, I was addicted to meth and heroin at the age of 35. That's when I know I'm in trouble, when I get addicted to heroin.
Because I am bipolar type 1, that when I get manic, I get psychotic. My first manic episode was when I was 23. The police caught me and I was detained at Harborview.
But inside of me, I wanted to stop. I really did. I just didn't know how. I would sometimes sit in a hotel room and just cry, because I was in so much pain inside.
After my manic episode, friends that I had before were no longer my friends. I was very isolated.
During that COVID lockdown, that isolation got deeper, but I also didn't want to do anything about it because I didn't feel the will to or the, energy to. I'd never really been very openly communicating with my parents despite, us getting along. I was just the kid who never got into problems. From their perspective, right? They didn't need to check in on me because they saw that I didn't get into trouble. And eventually it turned into like ideas of self-harm.
I didn't know how to stop. I just didn't know how to stop. I had nobody. And one day I got caught. When I went to prison, I was like, well, it can't get worse than this.
Wrote a letter to my parents, mostly about how I'd been feeling and how I'd been self-harming, you know, just kind of admitting that.
When I got out, somebody mentioned sound. And so I read a lot about sound and their mission statement, and I knew that this is what I want to do with my life now. I wanted to help people. Got my certified peer counselor certificate, and that's what I'm doing, helping people.
It took me a long time to want to be helped. It took me a long time. Probably what I appreciate the most about Sound is that there's somebody I can talk to.
Sound, it's a great place. It's a beautiful, beautiful service that we provide.
Finding the group, you know, I started making a few more friends as well, and that feeling of isolation slowly started to die down as well, which helped my mental health a lot. That's why I still do the group today.
My sober date is 9/11/2019. I'm just so grateful and so happy to be in this position in my life.
I'm grateful that it's becoming more mainstream and we can talk about these things more. Somebody you can talk to in person really makes a difference. I think it's vitally important that we sustain community mental health for the reasons that human connection is so important.
There's so many resources that you can use. Don't even think twice about it, because the more you think about it, the more reasons you'll find to not do it.
It's an excellent place to be heard.
Just keep showing up, just keep trying.
Now more than ever, this is important.